Hello and welcome back to another Premier League predictions video. Now, as I do every week, we're going to take a look at what I think is going to happen in the coming game week 8 of the Premier League. But before that, as we normally do, I'm going to take a look back at my game week 7 predictions, see how well I did, and if I got any correct. Spoiler alert, it's not been my best week. We'll just say that. But we're going to jump into it with the Saturday fixtures, and we're going to start off with Aston Villa versus Brighton Hove Albion. And I predicted a 2-2 draw. It's actually 6-1 to Villa. Who saw that coming? Villa absolutely dominated Brighton in Birmingham, and what a performance it was. Watkins had an absolute stormer, scoring the opening goal, getting a hat-trick, and topping it all off with an assist. Fatty also grabbed his first Brighton goal, but that's all been overshadowed by just the absolute domination they suffered at the hands of Aston Villa. Then we move on to Manchester United versus Crystal Palace. Now, I predicted a 2-1 win for Man United, but it's actually a 1-0 win for Palace. The Man United circus continues as they lost to Palace in their own backyard, no less. It was a brilliant strike from Anderson that ultimately sealed the 3 points for the visitors. Now, United did have their fair share of chances, but just could not find the back of the net. Johnston was absolutely phenomenal for Palace. He made so many brilliant saves that kept the visitors in the game. But my question is, who are Man United going to blame for this? Who am I kidding? It'll just be the Glazers again. It's always the Glazers' faults. And then we move on to Newcastle United versus Burnley. Now, I predicted 4-0 to Newcastle. It was actually just 2-0. Now, it's the third win on the bounce as they eased past Burnley. To be fair, it was an early shot from Burnley as Burns slipped, but it was Almiron who opened the scoring through a wonderful strike. Absolutely world class from that man. Isaac finished off Burnley from the spot after Gordon was taken down in the box. Not the domination I was expecting, but they made it look pretty easy, to be fair, although they did have a couple of scares, as I mentioned. But yeah, nothing too troubling for Newcastle. And then we move on to Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Manchester City. Now, I predicted a 3-0 win to City. It's actually a 2-1 win to Wolves. It's a week of shocks, I'll say that. Wolves end Manchester City's 100% Premier League run. City started off strongly, as would be expected of them, but it was actually Wolves who opened the scoring through deflection of Diaz. City responded in the second half as Alvarez slotted a direct free kick, but that wasn't enough as He-Chan, or the Korean one as Pep called him, finished off City in very emphatic fashion. And the Wolves admin was loving it. Yeah, fair play, man. Fair play to Wolves. And then we on to Bournemouth versus Arsenal. I predicted a 1-0 draw, and it was actually 4-0 to Arsenal. I don't know what I was thinking, but Arsenal maintained their unbeaten run as they eased past Bournemouth. Saka opened the scoring as a Jesus effort deflected off the post, but he was there to slot it in. Odegaard doubled the visitors' lead from the spot before Havertz grabbed his first goal for the Gunners from the spot as well, before Ben White sealed it at the death. You know, it was kind of wholesome to see them give Havertz the penalty, but yeah, he's not been a great signing for them, has he? He scored, fair play. And then we move on to West Ham United versus Sheffield United, and I predicted 3-0 to West Ham. It was actually just 2-0. Sheffield United started off strongly, but it was Bowen who opened the scoring for the home side. Souček doubled the lead not long after, and despite some fairly decent chances from the Blades, West Ham stood strong and maintained a clean sheet and made sure that all 3 points stay in London. And then we move on to Everton versus Luton. I predicted 2-0 to Everton. It was actually 2-1 to Luton. Luton grabbed their first win of the season away at Goodison. It was Lockyer who opened the scoring for the Hatters before their top scorer, Colton Morris, made it 2 shortly after. Now, Everton did grab a goal back, but it just wasn't enough to inspire a comeback as Luton held firm. What an amazing result for the Hatters, and just the scenes were incredible, to be honest. It was a brilliant game to watch, I can't lie. And then we move on to Tottenham versus Liverpool. I predicted a 2-2 draw. It was actually 2-1 to Tottenham. This was a game full of scandals, as I'm sure you're aware. Jones saw red for a challenge, which could have gone either way, to be fair. Liverpool had then looked to open the scoring through Diaz, but the goal was bizarrely and controversially chalked off offside when it was very clearly on. It was then Son who opened the scoring for the hosts. Gakpo levelled just before half-time, but then Jota saw red, which brought Liverpool down to 9 men. And there was a last-minute own goal from Matip that gave Spurs all 3 points. But yeah, what a crazy game. It was fun to watch, but obviously if you're a Spurs fan or a Liverpool fan, you're having very, very different experiences. But yeah, Liverpool got really hard done by there, and my prediction could have been correct as well. The refs are always working against me, I swear. And then move on to the Sunday fixture of Nottingham Forest versus Brentford. Again, I predicted 2-1 to Forest. It was actually a 1-1 draw. And the points were shared in East Midlands, but again, it wasn't without scandal. More refereeing errors ran throughout this clash, as they did last year as well. Niakate saw red for the hosts as Brentford had 2 penalty games waved away, but it was the visitors who scored the opening after the aforementioned red card. Forest equalised though through summer addition Dominguez. What a goal he scored. But all in all, just pain that we didn't beat Brentford. One day we'll get them. One day. But they do feel like a bogey team for us because we've not beat them in quite a long time. Just want one, please. And then we on to the Monday fixture of Fulham versus Chelsea. I predicted a 2-0 win to Fulham. It was actually a 2-0 win to Chelsea. So my predictions haven't been going too well. Chelsea put their bad run of form behind them as they beat their West London rivals. It was Mudryk of all people who opened the scoring in what was his first goal for Chelsea, and then about a minute later, Broja added the second. And that was that, you know. Mudryk and Broja both scoring in a match. I think they're both injured now, but, you know, it is what it is. I can't lie, I forgot Broja played for Chelsea, to be honest. There were a few chances at either end, but Fulham just could not find the back of the net, and Sanchez pulled out some brilliant saves to deny the Cottagers an opening. And finally, the Tuesday fixture of Luton versus Burnley. I predicted 1-0 to Luton, and it was actually 2-1 to Burnley. Burnley grabbed their first win of the season at Kenilworth Road after a largely dominant performance, to be fair. It was Lyle Foster who opened the scoring for Burnley, but then Luton managed to grab an equaliser through Adebayo, and then less than a minute later, Burnley were back on top through Larson. And that secured a very important 3 points for Burnley, their first win of the season, so fair play. I mean, I really thought Luton would have had something there, especially after the win over Everton, but apparently not. So yeah, those were my Game Week 7 Premier League predictions. I think this is the first week I didn't get a single prediction right, so that's not great. We stopped our streak of getting one prediction right each week, so yeah, big L. But anyway, we're going to swiftly move on to Game Week 8, the upcoming Premier League game week. And I do want to say, despite sides playing European football between these two clashes, I've not really let that influence my predictions, does that make sense? I'm not letting it influence my thinking too much, just in terms of like rotation and stuff, but I just thought I'd clear that up in case you're wondering why I've predicted some sides to do some things. You might not, but I just thought I'd let you know anyway. But yeah, let's just jump into it. Enough of the waffle. We're going to start with the Saturday fixtures and Luton Town versus Tottenham Hotspur. So this is the early kick-off as Luton host Tottenham. Currently the biggest side to visit Kenilworth Road, so it's bound to be a spectacle. Luton fell to Burnley earlier in the week, so we'll be looking to put that loss behind them and get some more points on the board, especially after their impressive win over Everton. Spurs remain one of the only sides that are unbeaten in the league and will be looking to extend that run. And to be honest, Luton looks like a prime opportunity to do that. It's going to be very interesting to see the likes of Son and Maddison playing between the terrace houses that surround Kenilworth Road, but honestly, I'm all here for it. Luton have shown they have it in them to win games, but they've still been unable to come back after going behind, only grabbing a draw against 10-men Wolves after going behind. That's the only time they've really salvaged any sort of points after going behind first. We saw when they went ahead against Everton first, they managed to see out the game, but again, they've not really shown that they can come back from behind to claim all 3 points. And I don't think they'll do it against Tottenham either. This is a Tottenham side that love playing attacking football under Ange and have shown their prowess, scoring 17 goals and generally looking very, very threatening. Both sides are suffering from injuries, but it's Spurs who are filling it more, with a whole host of players sidelined, and a very real possibility of Son also missing out. Now, it does remain to be seen though if he will be missing this game. There's no concrete yes or no at the moment, but either way, I'm going to say 4-0 to Spurs. I can't see Luton getting anything from this match. Tottenham are a very prolific attacking side, and will no doubt cause a lot of issues for Luton, who have a very, very defensive record, conceding 14 goals so far this season. And they've failed to keep a clean sheet in any of their matches as well. Spurs will be looking to exploit that with their dangerous looking front line, you know, Son, Maddison, Richarlison, Johnson, all the Sons, even Kulusevski, you know, very, very dangerous players. I know Johnson is injured and Son might be as well, but that's a very dangerous looking front line, even without those two players. I mean, Son, a huge miss, but yeah, it's a dangerous team. Luton have shown that they can score goals, but Tottenham is an entirely new challenge for the Hatters, I feel. I'm not saying it'll be an impossible task for them, but it's highly unlikely that they'll find the back of the net here, especially with Vicario being a very, very solid keeper as well. I can see Spurs taking all 3 points back to the capital, though a Luton upset would be just amazing. And then move on to Fulham versus Sheffield United. The Cottagers will be hosting Sheffield United while looking to put a stop to their slight dip in form. Good news for Fulham, as Sheffield United do look like the perfect side to do this. However, the Blades are still searching for their first win of the season, and this can cause a lot of issues for the side they face. They're going to want that win at some point, and they'll be looking at matches like this as the ones they can grab that elusive first win. As we saw last week with Luton and Everton, like, it can cause shocks. Fulham haven't been brilliant this season, in stark contrast to their returned to the Premier League last season, but they've managed to pick up 2 wins so far this season and currently find themselves in 13th. Both sides have some good attacking talent, and I feel that Sheffield United have more of that talent at their disposal, but are also suffering from more injuries than the hosts as well. So it sort of evens out in a way. Despite results though, Sheffield United put out some decent performances and have shown some promise in their matches, but have just lacked the ability to really kill off games. They've got some brilliant players like Sander Berger, Harmer as well, a phenomenal player, Archer, all very good players, but they just don't have that killer instinct at the moment from what I can see. I'm going to say 2-1 to Fulham. I think Fulham will win this clash. Both sides do look fairly evenly matched in my opinion at the moment, but I do feel that Fulham will come out on top. Fulham again have shown the ability to win games, unlike the Blades, and have the quality within their squad to see off their opponents. I do see it being a fairly tough clash for the Cottagers, with Sheffield United desperate to get that first win under their belt, but I can't see them getting the 3 points in London. Just looks like a bridge too far from what I can tell. But hey, Sheffield United could turn up and really shock us, but do they have that in their locker? I don't think so. And then we move on to Burnley versus Chelsea. Burnley host Chelsea at Turf Moor after grabbing their first win on Tuesday. Chelsea grabbed their first win in a while too, over their West London rivals last week, so both sides were riding high and looking to start a winning run. And as well, both sides do feel quite similar at the moment, despite the 4 points separating them, so I imagine we could see quite a close match at Turf Moor. As I mentioned, Burnley grabbed their first win of the season over Luton at Kenilworth Road, and they acquitted themselves quite well in that clash, and we've seen Chelsea beat Luton as well, so, you know, it's the Luton Victors cage match. Chelsea dealt with Fulham quite easily, to be fair, with the Cottagers barely threatening Chelsea, which I thought was very strange. I thought they'd really give it a go, but apparently not. Both sides are also suffering from multiple injuries, with Chelsea being the worst of the two sides, but with the amount of business they've done, they shouldn't really be short on players, to be honest. I'm going to say 1-0 to Burnley. Yes, it may be a very rogue shout from me, but I can see Burnley grabbing a win here. I don't know if it's exactly a shock win, as Chelsea have not been great as of late, but classically, this would be classed as an upset, so I'm going to class it as one for the purposes of this video. Burnley can be a tough side to face at Turf Moor, and despite not providing 3 points this season, their home form is definitely what will keep them up if they survive this season. So yeah, Turf Moor could become a fortress for them, and I think if they do have any hopes of staying up, it will be because of that Turf Moor form. Chelsea, as we know, have not been in great form this season and have failed to beat some teams that you would have assumed they should have beaten. Forest immediately springs to mind, at home as well. And I reckon we may see another repeat here. I'm backing Burnley here. I think they can shock Chelsea. And you know what? I'll be here for it. And then we move on to Manchester United versus Brentford. Manchester United host another London side in Brentford at Old Trafford as they look to turn around their recent fortunes. It's not been going well for United recently, what with the injuries and the performances not being as expected. Brentford also not enjoyed the greatest start to the season, but are also suffering from quite a few injuries themselves. Manchester United fell at home to Palace, but John Stone was a huge part in keeping the Eagles in that match. So if Flecken, I believe, is the Brentford keeper, I know they like to rotate, so if Flecken can even emulate Johnston a little bit, Brentford looking pretty solid. Brentford earned a draw against Forest, but offered plenty of threat in that match. So yeah, but again, Forest threatened Manchester United quite a lot, so maybe that's a good thing. United will play in the Champions League before this match, so we're bound to see some squad rotation, but their depth isn't the best, so it does put Ten Hag in an interesting position with the squad choice. Brentford don't have any midweek football to play, so will have less headaches in regards to squad selection, so I imagine they'll line up pretty similarly to how they did on Sunday. It's a very solid squad they put out. I don't think anyone got injured for Brentford, so they're looking pretty good. I'm going to say a 1-1 draw. I don't think United will grab a result here. Brentford are a very tough team to play, but they're not at their strongest at the moment. United are also not at their strongest by any means, missing out on a lot of important players, and the aforementioned squad rotation as well will also cause issues. Both sides look fairly evenly matched going into this clash, and I can see the points being shared in Manchester. It's not looking great for Manchester United, and I see that continuing past this match, to be honest. They're really not looking good. Something's going to give. Can I see Ten Hag walking? Probably not. I don't know, because he's not grabbing the results they need. So it's a very interesting situation at United at the moment, because if Ten Hag doesn't keep getting those results, he's definitely going to go, but who did even bring him to replace him? Like, it's a very interesting train of thought between what's going on at United. But hey, Brentford, they're riding high. They've had no managerial issues. You know, they're playing well. The owners are loved. Hold that United, I guess. And then we move on to Everton versus Bournemouth. It's a bottom of the table clash as Everton host Bournemouth at Goodison. Now, much like Luton, Bournemouth are yet to grab their first win of the season. And we all know what happened with Luton. That side though, Everton have looked strange recently. I mean, they handily beat Brentford away from home and followed that with a cut win against Villa as well. And then, of course, they fell to Luton. Bournemouth haven't enjoyed much better fortunes, still without a league win as I've said. But it's not to say that Bournemouth haven't played well. They've looked very decent in the matches they've played, but the football Areola wants to play hasn't really manifested itself just yet. Everton look to have gotten over their goal scoring issues, with DCL seemingly hitting some run of form. He's scored 2 goals in a row, guys. What's going on? But obviously, it's a small sample size, so that does remain to be seen. But it bodes well if he starts picking up, a goal a game. That's good for his confidence, good for his form, good for Everton in general. To be honest, it does remain to be seen whether he can keep fit for one and keep scoring those goals. I'm going to say a 1-1 draw. I think we'll see another draw. Both sides have scored goals. Not many, but each side have scored in most of their games, but have also failed to keep clean sheets in most of their league matches as well. Both these teams do seem to play polar opposite styles of football. Dyche is known for his more defensive style, whereas Areola likes to play an attacking brand of football. It's going to be very interesting to see how these different philosophies clash. I know Dyche has been a bit less defensive this season with Everton. He's more focused on the attack and fair play because they need to score goals if they want to survive. But yeah, it's Dyche ball, It is what it is. Wood and nails football, if you will. I do see the points being shared on Merseyside, to be honest. Goodison isn't really considered to be a tough place to go like it has been historically. Historically, Goodison, very hard place to go. The Everton supporters always bring in the atmosphere for their team, but with recent results, the atmosphere doesn't really seem to be there. It doesn't really seem to be a hard place to go anymore. And obviously, this is probably the last season that we'll see professional football or top flight football. I mean, even if they get relegated, so they'll still be playing the new Browning Moore dock. So it's like the last season for Goodison, and it's not getting a good send-off from what I can see. Not like one last hurrah. So yeah, doesn't look like a hard place to go this season. I think Bournemouth should be able to grab a draw with Everton. And then we move on to Crystal Palace versus Nottingham Forest. Palace host Forest at Selhurst Park, looking to build on their shock win last week. Forest weren't so fortunate as they were held to a draw by Brentford. Last time around, this match had a very party-like atmosphere as Forest were guaranteed survival the week prior, but I don't expect this match to have a similar vibe. Crystal Palace grabbed a huge result against United last week, and I'm sure that will have filled the squad with some confidence, especially after previous results had not gone their way. But still, they are slightly struggling for goals from what I can tell. Forest battled well against Brentford, but it was always going to be an uphill battle after going down to 10 men. And Niakate missing out on this clash as well will be quite the loss, because he's a brilliant defender and can play on the left as well. So we are going to miss him, unfortunately. Neither side is struggling for goals, but neither side are struggling a lot of goals either. Like, Forest have only scored 1 more goal than the Eagles this season so far. So it's an interesting one because, as I said, they're not struggling, but they're not scoring a lot of goals either. They're just like there, just vibing in the middle. But yeah, they both look quite evenly matched at the moment, to be honest. Forest have seemingly gotten over their away performances from last season, while Palace haven't exactly scored their goal scoring woes. They are still scoring. I'm going to say 1-0 to Nottingham Forest. Now, this might be a crazy prediction from me, but I can see Forest grabbing all 3 points. I can't see it being a high scoring game between the two, and I can see it being quite a close affair as well. But as I've said, both teams are very evenly matched, but I think Forest just has that more edge in attack. Players like Awoniyi, Elanga, Hudson-Odoi, Morgan Gibbs-White all make for a very potent attacking force. I can see them causing Palace quite a few issues, to be honest. Palace do have a solid defence, only conceding 7 goals so far this season, so that averages about a goal a game, which is better than Forest's record, to be fair. Now, it may be a delusion, it may be bias, but I think Forest have what it takes to beat the Eagles in their own backyard. And again, I will be there. I'll be watching from afar. I don't go to away matches. I can't go to away matches, unfortunately. But yeah, come on, Forest. And then move on to the Sunday fixtures and Brighton versus Liverpool. Now, it's a top 6 clash as Brighton host Liverpool at the Amex. And after the absolute shambles last week, you have to feel for Brighton. They're seeing the first player butchered in the warm-ups, I'm telling you. Brighton are a strange side. They either play really well or get absolutely battered. There's no in between. Liverpool are looking quite good and a far cry from the team they were last season. This Liverpool 2.0 are looking very exciting, but will be out Curtis Jones and Diego Jota from the aforementioned shambles. Though Jota's probably just playing FIFA anyway, so I don't think he cares. Both teams will be playing European football on Thursday though, so I do imagine we could see quite a bit of rotation between the two sides. De Zerbi loves to tinker with his squad, and Klopp is partial to it too. I think De Zerbi does a lot more than Klopp, to be fair. Klopp, he's had his moments, but De Zerbi just seems to do every other game now. What is he cooking? But I do think this Brighton side offers more quality in their depth than Liverpool do. Both teams have had brilliant starts to the season with some great runs of form, so this is quite a tough match to call. Brighton will be looking to put that huge loss to Villa behind them, whilst Liverpool would also want to put that scandalous result behind them too, despite asking for a rematch that they were never going to be given anyway. Like, there's no precedent for that. You can't set the precedent for that because it's just a slippery slope. So they're never going to get a replay. But it was a ballsy move to ask for one, to be fair. Brighton are suffering from quite a few injuries themselves, whilst Liverpool are more affected by the suspenders players, to be honest, which I imagine is a nice change for Klopp, though equally frustrating. I'm going to say 2-1 to Brighton. I think Brighton will just clinch this one. Brighton have not lost back-to-back league matches since October last year, but Liverpool were in great form, going on an extensive unbeaten run before last week's result as well. Both teams are looking good and fairly evenly matched, but this is a very dominant Brighton side who have shown multiple times that they can bounce back from massive defeats repeatedly, and I suspect this will be a similar case. They've done it multiple times this season alone, which is interesting to say the least. Liverpool aren't an easy side to face, and this season's new look squad have looked much better when compared to the performances last season, but Brighton have also shown they can take the game to these types of sides and emerge victorious, so it's going to be a very good clash between two fairly evenly matched sides. I'm looking forward to it, but I think Brighton just have the edge on Liverpool. And then move on to West Ham versus Newcastle United. The Hammers host Newcastle United at the London Stadium in what is a top half clash, with both sides find themselves next to each other in the table. Both sides have been enjoying decent starts to their seasons. Newcastle had a shaky start with their defence not being as resolute as it was last season, but recent performances have seen that all sorted out, seemingly at least. West Ham have generally been strong for the entire season so far, and while they've lost to City and Liverpool, they've shown some really good performances against other strong sides, and that 3-1 against Brighton was an especially good one for the Hammers. Newcastle have turned around their form and were looking to keep the run going in their capital. Newcastle have turned around their form recently and were looking to keep that good run going in the capital. West Ham did go through a small run of form before the aforementioned clashes against City and Liverpool put an end to that, so we'll be looking to get another winning run going again. Both teams are playing European football, albeit at different levels, but it's still likely we'll see a fair bit of rotation between the two sides. So that can make predicting what lineups we'll see and in turn performances very difficult for these two. I'm going to say 2-1 to Newcastle though. I think this will be a very close affair, but I do think Newcastle will just clinch this one. The only thing holding the Magpies back is the large amount of injuries that are mounting up for them. A lot of their important players are out, but they do have the quality needed within the squad to still be able to compete at a competitive level. West Ham look far better on the injury front, but I just don't think they have the same amount of quality that Newcastle do. It'll be a very cagey match, there's no doubt about that, because there's no denying that both sides have quite a bit of quality within their respective ranks. I just think that Newcastle have the more lethal attack, with them scoring 18 goals to the Hammers 13, so a 5-goal difference, but that's probably all done in the first match, to be fair. I can see the 3 points being taken back up north. I just think Newcastle have what it takes to overcome this West Ham side, even with the squad rotation they'll have to, play. They get a day more rest than West Ham, to be fair, so that is an advantage that they have, but they do have a lot of injuries, so it's going to be very interesting to see what team both sides put out. I think Newcastle have it in the bag. They've got more quality, let's be real. I don't think many people can argue with that. It's a loose Midlands derby as Wolves host Villa at Molineux. Now I say this is a loose rivalry as it does seem very forced by anyone who is not a Wolves or Villa fan. Well, even some of their fans, to be fair, are forcing it. Doesn't really seem like a real rivalry to me. Both teams have been enjoying rather different campaigns so far. Wolves find themselves in 15th, coming off the back of a brilliant win against City, whilst Villa sit in 5th, enjoying a run of 3 wins and coming off the back of that 6-1 domination over Brighton. Both results were shocks and have done wonders for either side's confidence, I imagine. Villa do have European football to play too, so it's likely we'll see some squad rotation from Emery, but Villa have got a lot of quality at their disposal, so even a rotated side is a very strong side. Wolves, on the other hand, are chilling. No European football to contend with, as well as no current injuries as well. What a time to be alive. It'll be a very interesting one. Emery loves to play attacking football, and we've seen the damage Villa can inflict. O'Neill also likes playing attacking football, but his style is more flexible, depending on the strength of his squad. I'm going to say 3-1 to Villa. I think Villa will grab this win in the derby. Now, I did think City would beat Wolves, to be fair, and that was proved very much wrong. I'm still backing Villa, As mentioned, they love to play attacking football, and that football has produced some brilliant results as of late. I don't think Wolves have much in their locker that can really stop this Villa side, especially when they enter full flow. I don't see it being a complete domination like it was against Brighton, but I do see Villa causing Wolves a lot of problems. As we saw last week, Wolves do have them to score goals, and I'm sure they'll grab a goal here, as I don't think Villa have, the defensive might of Manchester City, which Wolves put 2 past, so we should see a goal at least, but I don't think that'll be enough to put Villa under any real pressure. Villa have already scored 18 goals this season, and I see them adding to that tally in the West Midlands. It's not looking good for Wolves. I'm not going to lie, this Villa side could go on to bat them 6-1 as well. I don't think they will, but I think 3-1, it's realistic for Villa. And finally, Arsenal versus Manchester City. Finally, the biggest clash of the week as Arsenal host Manchester City at the Emirates. Now last season, as I'm sure you remember, Arsenal gave City a really good run for the title, but ultimately fell towards the end. Both sides have since enjoyed different starts to their respective seasons. Manchester City were on a flawless run until they faced Wolves, while Arsenal still remain unbeaten, but there are some draws sprinkled in there. Unfortunately for both sides though, it's looking like they'll be missing some of their better players. Rodri is suspended while KDB is still out with injury, whereas Arsenal are set to miss out on Saka and Martinelli. Saka is going to be a huge miss for Arsenal if he is out at all, as he's a real core component of that Arsenal side, with a real focal point for Arteta. Luckily for Arsenal though, Haaland has not been the same goalscorer he was last season, seemingly less effective and less accurate than the machine we saw last season. Only a point separates the two sides, so whoever wins this match will find themselves at the summit of the league. Well, City will for sure. Arsenal will have to beat Spurs' goal difference to go out on top, so a very tough task against City when Spurs are playing Luton, but hey, we'll see. That's besides the point. Let's focus back in on this match. The shock loss to Wolves will have shaken City and shown that they're not invincible, so it will probably act as a wake-up call which could see them play some of the best football we've seen from them this season. So it's not looking good for Arsenal in that regard if it really, flicks a switch in City that, hey, we need to put in the performances because we're not guaranteed results, especially against this Arsenal side. I'm going to say 3-0 to Manchester City. I can see this being another tough game for both sides, but I do see City coming out on top. Saka will be a huge miss for Arsenal as he's one of Arteta's key players and one who is very hard to replace. City have missed Rodri, but I do think that even without him, the City side is still very strong and have the quality needed to overcome this Arsenal side. It is classic City, losing to Wolves and they're going to beat Arsenal the next week. It's just what they do. Also, as Haaland has not been having a great time recently, this is definitely the type of game he's going to show up for, just like he did against Fulham. I'm backing City in this one, and Haaland could go crazy. If you're debating selling him in FPL, hold on to him for this match, because he might just turn up. But yes, those of you my Game Week 8 Premier League predictions, hoping to get one right, get back on the horse, get back predicting games correctly. And yeah, if you have any predictions of your own, please leave them in the comments down below. I do always enjoy seeing what everyone else is cooking up. And yeah, I've been O2GT. Hope you have a brilliant rest of your day. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.